Welcome to All Things Chiropractic.
Welcome to another episode of All Things Chiropractic. I'm Paul Andrews.
And Dr. Mark Davini. Welcome all.
So we're rounding out our three-part series on chiropractic.
Is this kind of like The Return of the Jedi?
I like a lot of those trilogies. It was a pretty good one.
Yeah.
It was a pretty good one.
That one started in the middle and ended.
Well, I mean, it was like
We started at the
episode
beginning.
whatever, 6 or 7 technically. We're talking about philosophy in chiropractic today.
Oh, the only reason why I said that is one of my sayings is may the force be with you. So we're there now.
Is that your saying or the saying?
The one I say a lot.
A lot, yeah.
And that's where we are now.
Yeah.
Philosophy.
Which leads to a lot of different, I have a lot of quotes, but I'll start with Plato. Philosophy begins in wonder.
I wonder.
I wonder why we're doing this. No, I'm just kidding. So I like philosophy because to me, this really, not only is it the backdrop of chiropractic in general, but to me, this is the fuel of like the passion of chiropractic.
Right.
To me.
I mean, our guiding principles,
So when we're talking about philosophy of chiropractic, we're really talking about the why of the profession, right? We talked about the art and the science behind it, but this is the why. And so
why do we do it?
I'm going to ask you right up front because I'm curious of your thoughts on this. As chiropractic has evolved over the years, and having been a chiropractor for a long time yourself, has philosophy, has that grown or diminished in the profession?
It has become more segmented. So there are those that still carry the same principles that were many years ago, and then there are those that think differently. So I think what's happening is we've become segmented. We have those that practice a philosophical type of practice and those that practice a more symptom-based type of practice. So as we talk about science, art, and philosophy, and depending upon the school you went to, the experiences you have or whatever, every practitioner has a different percentage of what's most important to them. So if you're a symptom-based practitioner, you're going to be very heavily into the science side of that trilogy and the art side of that trilogy, and not so much in the philosophy side. If you're a wellness type of practice where you advocate the benefits of long-term chiropractic care, you're going to be more toward the philosophical side and less toward the scientific side. So it depends on your focus.
We did an episode on chiropractic straight versus a mixer. Would you say philosophy is the dividing line between those those groups?
Yes, or at least the driving force behind one or the other. What makes you do? Why do you do certain things? What is the goal? What's the intent? So if I'm giving an adjustment and an adjustment only, I have a strong belief in the body's innate power to heal itself almost no matter what. If I'm going to apply supportive therapy, I'm making a conscious decision to assist innate. And sometimes that conscious decision can be right, often right. Sometimes it may not be so right, but it's man's limited mind making a choice to assist the unlimited power of innate.
Would you say this is an accurate statement that a philosophically based chiropractor believes that the healing happens within, and someone who isn't as philosophically based believes that the healing happens from exterior forces?
Absolutely. When if I adjust you and you come in and you say, my low back is just killing me, okay? And we know that most patients walk into a chiropractor for some reason or another. And you put the patient down and you toggle C1 and you say, thank you, come back next week. And they look at you like cross-eyed. Well, I told you my low back hurts and you just adjusted the top of my neck. Why? That doesn't make sense to me. Well, doing that approach obviously is based upon your scientific knowledge and certainly has a lot to do with your ability to apply that in an effective manner, the art of it. But you also have the philosophy that all I need to do is to remove the interference and the body will heal itself. wherever the problem is. The principle behind subluxation, one of the principles, at least when I was taught, was that symptoms don't dictate what you do. You adjust the patient and let the body heal itself. If the symptom was the result of a subluxation, then the symptom will go away. But what's evolved over time is this immediate gratification society, they need to have the symptom addressed at the same time. So we might do things to try and at least help with the symptom, help brush it along, take away some of the pain, maybe reduce some of the inflammation. So we do all these supportive procedures, but could still have full faith that the adjustment is what does the healing. The problem becomes philosophically is when you actually start thinking that supportive procedure is as important as the adjustment. When you've crossed that line, you are not practicing chiropractic anymore. You're just practicing physical therapy.
All right, let me ask you this question then. Is a chiropractic subluxation a theory or is it science? Is it a philosophy?
Yes. Okay, and I'm going to quote Thomas Huxley when he said, "The great tragedy of science, the slaying of a beautiful hypothesis." So,
right.
When we talked about not having enough science to validate the existence of a subluxation, that's a problem because we all base what we do on something that hasn't even been proven to exist. Not only that, we validate our whole practice on an entity, a pathological entity that no two people will find the same way.
Yeah, well, we've talked about that.
Yeah, how do you adjust?
But I'm going to hone in on this for a second.
Yeah.
When you're in school, whatever college you go to, chiropractic college you go to, how do they define subluxation?
Well, again, depends on the school. If you were to go to certain schools, especially here in the East Coast and schools close to Massachusetts, you're not even allowed to use the word subluxation. And then you can go to other schools where, you go to church and worship the word subluxation. So it depends on the school you go to. They can be anywhere in that continuum from, we'll expel you if you even use the word, all the way up to we'll expel you if you don't, worship the word. So you have to find, and we talked about this even in some of the other discussions about what is your definition of subluxation? And it should be an intellectual rational.
But even if they call it a dislocation or some other term, because I don't want to use, it was too philosophically based to call it subluxation or not scientifically corroborated. But do they all teach sort of a universal, this is the result of having this interference or dislocation or subluxation? Or?
Well, again, I can frame it in a philosophical approach where I adjust C1 and let the innate powers of the body heal itself. Or I could say that I adjust a segment in order to stimulate proprioception, in order to stimulate, to feed back into the brain and affect the central integrative state of the human body.
Aren't both things the body healing itself, though?
Exactly.
Right?
But one is very philosophical in description, and the other one is more scientific in description. So where do you fall in your brain? What do you need as a practitioner? And based on what you need, if you're a scientific practitioner, you need to spend all your effort trying to find the philosophy that fits your science. If you're a philosophical practitioner, you need to spend all your energy trying to find the science that fits your philosophy. But what happens is people just find their little rut and they stay on one side or the other and they never bother to go, no, I don't need to know that. I'm a chiropractor. All I do is adjust. And it's like,
adjust what?
I know.
This is what I'm trying to get.
Exactly.
This is what I'm trying to get to. Because I'm not a chiropractor. I didn't go to chiropractic school. So for me, as a layperson, I'm saying to myself, how are you not philosophical as a chiropractor? Because you were trained from a philosophical foundation, whether you want to admit that as a school or not.
Right. I think most of us can say that in the chiropractic world, most of us believe that if we do what we do, it will do something that will allow the body to heal itself. because we don't heal anything. You cut yourself, the old example, you cut yourself and you put a Band-Aid on it and you take the Band-Aid off a week later and the cut's gone. I mean, the Band-Aid didn't heal you. Your body healed it. And that's what we're talking about here, is that we can at least all accept that by doing what we do and based on how we were taught, that we're releasing some positive force in the body. May the force be with you.
Mm-hmm.
Some positive force in the body that will promote healing. Now, clearly defining that is back to the science discussion. This is where I believe our schools fail us, in that they have not gotten together and decided what to teach. So they all teach something different. Then they graduate a bunch of diverse chiropractors who become more and more diverse based, doing their own thing, because they don't have any solid foundation to say, this is it. All they can say is, this is what I was taught. So to take that and make it your own and make it something that isn't basically evidence-based, if we're going to use the term again, then that's why there's so many, you have as many techniques as you have chiropractors. So it's time for the profession to evolve. We have to take the term subluxation or whatever, and we have to find a common thing that is found in a common way within guidelines and with a lot of latitude, of course, and recognize that this is what a chiropractor does, and this is why they do it, rather than have, I believe there's 19 or 20 different schools or whatever, rather than have 19 or 20 different versions of what we do and how we do it.
So you have a bottom line person. So, and I'm not a chiropractor, so essentially I don't have a horse in the race here, but to me, as a bottom line person, I think all these schools and all these chiropractors can agree on one thing. The result of adjusting somebody will create something positive.
Yeah. B.J. Palmer said, "I'm hitting the butt with a shovel, they're going to get well."
Well, there you go.
There we go. So everybody go out and buy a shovel.
Yeah, right, please. No. No, don't do that.
Whack them in the butt.
Yeah.
But the point is, what is the best way to do it? We all know that all the ways work, because putting some type of positive influence into the spine in order to release a negative force or negative energy or something that holds back that negative energy is going to be positive. But are all techniques the same? Do all chiropractors get exactly the same result? The answer to that is no. And this is where the philosophy is the belief that if I apply principles of chiropractic to a human being, they're going to get well. That's the philosophy. Then the science is to decide exactly the best way to do that. But our philosophy is, I'm a chiropractor. If I apply chiropractic in the way that I know, I was taught, whatever, they're going to get well. But getting down to it, there's really two approaches chiropractors take, the vitalistic approach or the mechanistic approach. Do you believe the body is going to heal itself, or do you believe the body can't heal itself unless I intervene in a substantial way? Medicine is more mechanistic.
There's a balance there because, as you say, if I have appendicitis, it's not going to heal itself, most likely.
Right.
But the result of that surgery is my body will heal the wound.
Exactly.
Right? So chiropractic's somewhere in a balance there. But to me, again, I'm looking at, I think philosophy helps drive the art of what a chiropractor is going to do. But the philosophy of chiropractic, to me, it's very much in line with massage in a lot of ways, and acupuncture and other modalities or other professions, because we're assisting the body. We're assisting the body, in my opinion. So now, how much that body gets assisted from me externally versus internally, that's the philosophical debate, I think.
And here's a shocker maybe to a lot of chiropractors. The adjustment is an interference to the body. In application, it's a reduction of interference in outcome. So I can adjust you, and some people might adjust with light force, some people might adjust with a lot of force, and in times maybe too much force. We have to even recognize that the adjustment itself is a conscious decision made by a human being to try and influence an innate force. that has power far beyond what we do. So for me to say I can adjust you and get you well is such a misstatement, right? Because I adjust you and let the body get you well. I can't do anything. When I start to think I'm actually the one doing something to you, I've just become a bad chiropractor.
Well, the reason you're saying that, Doc, is your philosophical foundation. And I think some of that has to do with the time period in which you went to school.
Right.
Because in today's world, one could say, you would not have gotten better if I didn't interfere with the interference by adjusting you.
Exactly.
Right?
Right.
So cause and effect. Why can't I take some credit for the service I rendered to allow you to get better?
Well, I can take credit for knowing something that not everybody knows, and I can take credit for being good at it, great at it, like I said last time. But, in the art side of it, I can be great at applying that particular technique or whatever, but I have to recognize that I can still do that. And if it's not done properly or well, or if the body wasn't ready to receive it or whatever, you may still not get the outcome you want. So it's always about the body and the body's ability to receive what you do or what medicine does or what the drug does or does not. It's the body's willingness to receive it. As chiropractors, we recognize that the adjustment is the least invasive, most natural way of approaching allowing the body to heal itself.
Would you say that a more philosophically based chiropractor would only adjust, and then if they're really rigid in their philosophy, they would only adjust C1 and C2?
Whoa. Boy, now you're really going back, huh? Well, BJ used to say that, and even DD, but BJ used to say that C1 and C2 are the only true subluxations and everything else is a compensation because it has the brainstem that is in that area and interacts. So the true subluxations is C1 and C2. That's why he practiced upper cervical technique. And that's why he researched upper cervical technique. And that's why there's just mounds and mounds of paper demonstrating the effectiveness of upper cervical technique. Because in his brain, I adjust C1 and 2, clear the interference, and let the body heal itself. The rest is compensation. As time progressed, full spine adjusting became more and more popular because the conscious mind kept making choices to say, not only do I need to do this there, I need to do this here. And that's based on different techniques, Thompson or Gonstead or activator or whatever. These are all full spine techniques that have an analysis that determines that other areas need to be adjusted. But they also say they need to be adjusted their way. So if you apply Gonstead analysis and employ an activator technique, no one's ever researched that in a sense to say this is what is good or bad. We don't know that answer. We do know that activator does a lot of research on activator technique. So if you apply the activator treatment to someone utilizing an activator technique, there's a certain amount of predictable outcome there. Same thing with Gonstead, same thing with Thompson. But what we don't have is all this interacting of techniques and saying which one ends up being better or worse. So the philosophy comes down to me believing in what I do and that I spent the time and the effort to determine what to do is the best thing that I can offer my patients.
So then let me ask you this question. I'm not going to say bad, is a poor adjustment better than no adjustment?
Yes. Because again, we don't know what a good adjustment is. By definition.
Well, okay, let me get a little more detailed. If a subluxation has been identified and the force and the direction is wrong to correct it, should that adjustment be done, or is it going to be worse if you don't do any adjustment at all?
We have to say that it should be done. And the reason I say that is because the same technique, different techniques may have an adjustment indicated to the same segment in totally different ways. We have that. I won't use named techniques or whatever right now, but there are two very prominent named techniques that the same finding indicates adjusting different segments or in a different way. Yet they both work.
Would you say that the focused, isolated movement is really the key?
That's one theory. If you ascribe to the theory that by just trying to influence the central integrative state of the human body, that by applying certain forces to certain areas, I am stimulating the nervous system in certain ways, regardless of where and what and how sometimes. So if nothing else, putting the force in an area allows me to influence the central integrative state of the nervous system, as opposed to, say, some other techniques that are so specific. No, you have to do it from this side to that side. You have to torque your wrist, and you have to twist your arm, and you have to do everything exactly the way it's supposed to be, all based on a very specific analysis. And this is what I'm saying. We don't know. We just know that chiropractic works, that adjusting the subluxation entity, whatever that ends up being, seems to work. But what we can't say is universally what works best.
Would you say then that basically, I'm going to put it in layman's terms, by jump starting the nervous system in that area, you're giving the body a chance to put some feedback into that area to say, okay, what's going on? Like innately.
Yeah, that's one absolute
right?
theory, that by just putting the influence into the spine and stimulating the nervous system, you're gonna get a positive result. Just as much as somebody might say, I'm going to look at the x-ray and I see that it curves left and I see that it curves right, so I'm going to do it this way and that way to try and reverse that. We're all putting an influence into the body, and that influence is chiropractic. The technique might determine how we put that influence into the body, but we're putting an influence into the body. And what we all can say without question is by putting that influence into the body, people get well. What we cannot say is which one of these influence applications is the best. And if we could say that, then we could have a universal principle taught by all schools, so that when chiropractors come out, they say, this is who I am, this is what I do, and this is why I do it. And the research should be directed utilizing that. And then once we get the research back and prove that this is what we do and this is who we are, then maybe carriers might start accepting us and taking us out of the experimental realm. But if they want to cover chiropractic adjustment, you couldn't say what adjustment should be covered. You're saying that we're going to have this ill-defined entity that I've kind of worked out on my own after being taught a procedure to find this ill-defined entity. Please cover me.
I'm glad you brought up carriers, because with my background, I can't stay silent on there's an outside force that I think influences the philosophy of some chiropractors, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that outside force goes back to this whole body approach that chiropractors have. Massage therapists have it too. This whole body approach where, everything's connected. You want to sing that song about, your hip bone's connected to your thigh bone and all that stuff.
A hip bone connected to
yeah. But
then he makes fun of me for singing,
That's why I asked you to sing it. But so I'll give you some just basic examples of what I'm talking about. If you have a workers' comp case and the patient walks in and they hurt their low back lifting something at work, and you go to get prior authorization, you go to bill, and on that claim is a cervical subluxation, and you're now adjusting the cervical spine along with the lumbar spine. The work comp carrier is going to have a problem with you because the area that was injured was the low back, and how dare you venture outside of that for care that you expect the carrier to pay, right?
Right.
So when I look at this, the carriers, they're applying a medical model to insurance coverage, right? Rather than a chiropractic model. And what they're doing is they're pigeonholing or creating a momentum for diminished philosophy in the profession of chiropractic, because you still have to eat and pay your bills, right?
And we embrace that, unfortunately. Think back to there was a
time. Do we
time,
embrace it?
Well, unconsciously.
Okay.
Think back to
you embrace
time
the reimbursement.
Well, yeah. But we did have a time where the only code we submitted was an office visit code.
A2000 or something.
So that was the Medicare one.
Yeah.
There was another one that was just office visit.
97260.
There you go. So I think that sounds familiar to me. So now all of a sudden, on behalf of the profession, somebody negotiates the 989, the 97140 code and 41 and 42 codes.
99401.
Yeah, where they base it on the number of segments adjusted. They set us up for this failure. It was a ridiculous thing to concede that there is a situation where, number one, it's more work to adjust 3 than 2, but the other situation is it sets us up for this failure where now all of a sudden we will be restricted to how many segments we can adjust based on the number of areas complained about.
But it was enticing. You know why?
Got paid. Because
the reimbursement was different for the amount of areas, right? So in the wheelhouse is the 3 to 4 region, right? Most people know that. So to me, it was like the gateway drug, right?
Yeah.
to letting go of the philosophy. And I'm not saying that the entire motivation was money, but the system is designed, and probably in more professions than just chiropractic, to let go of the philosophy of anything because it's not scientifically or evidence-based.
And the truth is that when you compromise a philosophy, then it's no longer a philosophy. The philosophy is the guiding principle. If I change my guiding principle, I have a different philosophy, but I can't compromise the philosophy. And what's happened now is we've had so many decades of bit by bit compromising our philosophy, our belief system of what we do and why we do it, all for the sole purpose of gaining acceptance and getting reimbursed. Well, now we've had so many decades of that maybe some of us older ones remember when it was a different way and accept the fact that it has changed, not for the better, but it has changed. But the younger ones coming out of school now only know this way. They don't look at it as a compromise to philosophy. They look at it as the philosophy. Somebody has a symptom, that's the area I treat. And now all of a sudden the holistic, innate, body heals itself concept gives way to the mechanistic, symptom-based care that in some schools is that's the only system being taught.
Well, as you said, the degrees of that belief or philosophy varies on the school. But at the end of the day, when you're out there, I think having a philosophically based practice, when I say philosophically based, I'm saying that your belief system and the innate ability of your body to heal itself, leading to only do basically exams and adjustments, maybe x-rays,
right,
is a very challenging practice to survive and thrive in today's world.
Right. Well, let's even go one step further. So you have a practice, you do adjustments, you have supported procedures, those are all good. Okay? Nothing wrong with them in the application of them as long as they're applied according to your guiding principle, your philosophy. So a patient comes in and they lay down on the table and you use your analysis and you adjust them. And then they go, "Oh, I still feel it." And you adjust them again. You've just taken your philosophy and threw it out the window.
Well, there are some techniques that actually have you adjust more than once, isn't there?
Well, I mean, you can not necessarily.
Not right
that's
back
called
to back.
That's called osteopathy. If you keep adjusting until there's a certain nothing.
Right.
But I'm
you
saying,
get a bigger shovel is what you're saying if it doesn't work.
Exactly. But if you have a technique that says, this is how I analyze the presence of the subluxation, I determine this needs to be adjusted, and I adjust it. And then a patient convinces you to adjust somewhere else because they just don't feel like you got it kind of thing. You've just thrown your philosophy out the window. So I'm not saying it's wrong to have supportive procedures. It's wrong to do this, or do anything you want, but have a guiding principle, your philosophy, that stays almost no matter what. So you say to the patient, yes, that may be that way for a day or two. I'll check you when you come back, but this is all that needs to be done today for the body to heal itself. In one form or another, you say something like that. But no, we give in. We give in because they think, oh my God, I don't want this patient walking out and not being happy with me and then quitting care. Wrong motivation. Wrong. It's bad education and wrong motivation. Let the patient understand the body has to heal itself. May take time, and see you next time.
I'll hit you with a couple of quotes. Tell me how they fit into philosophy of chiropractic, okay?
Okay.
This one's an easy one. Aristotle, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts.
There you go. That's
Right.
it right there.
I'm a strong believer in that, for sure.
The force has to be with you.
Marcus Aurelius, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts.
And that goes back to what you had mentioned earlier about PTC, present time consciousness. Your desire is to heal this person. You will heal this person.
Do you believe Kierkegaard, life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards?
Yes. How many times have you said, if I knew then what I know now, things would be different?
Hindsight, boy.
Oh, here's one for you. I got one.
Yeah.
Our scientific power has outrun our spiritual power. We have guided missiles and misguided men. Martin Luther King.
Yeah, that is very true.
Right. And there we are. We have to make sure, we have to refocus, get back to a fundamental principle. And I'm not saying you go back and be guru-ish. I'm saying we need to have a philosophy of chiropractic. We need to have a defined art, and it can be more than one. And we need to have science back us up. But what we need to stop doing is this willy-nilly, whatever goes is what I do, and whatever the school taught allows me to walk out there and do something different, and that's okay too. And we don't have a profession. We have a bunch of professionals, but we don't have a profession to speak of, really.
But maybe the humongous diversity is the profession, rather than maybe that collective of professionals really is what chiropractic is.
But then it allows the evolution into wrong directions. And if all of a sudden you make certain things,
that's your right? The direction's wrong in your perception.
Right. If we're not practicing, if we move away from, in my mind, if we move away from anything where you have faith that the body can heal itself and that all I'm doing is assisting the body and I'm not telling the body what to do, I'm only assisting the body in doing what it wants to do, you stop moving away from that. You become a physical therapist. Nothing wrong with physical therapists, but it's not what I went to school for.
I know. This is where, this philosophy, this is where I fear for my profession of massage, because I feel like if you look at a linear timeline of the chiropractic profession, a lot of this pivot was shepherded by and reimbursement by insurance, and massage is going in that direction. And I'm all for servicing people that have, difficulty paying out of pocket, but the control is lost.
Oh,
it's lost.
I watch the direction sometimes massage therapists are going when they talk about getting reimbursed by insurance companies. And I go, oh my God, you have like the perfect world. You have people who are going to come in here and give you good money to perform a good service. Why do you want to screw that up? That's kind of where we went. Retrospect, right? I can say that to a massage therapist now because as a profession, we went down that path. And now we're struggling for identity. We're struggling for direction, and we're struggling for clarity on who we are, what we do, and why we do it.
I'm also going to say that the market forces of quality change.
Ooh.
The calculus changes now, because whether you're a chiropractor who's 50 years in the business or just out of school, insurance pays you the exact same rate.
Exact same.
Attorneys have figured it out, and attorneys can change because they don't have attorney insurance paying the bill.
Exactly.
I mean, I guess you might have malpractice, but,
I up my hourly rate every year,
to me, it's not fair. Someone like you who's been in the business a long time, my other friends of like 50 years, why are they getting the same chump change as somebody who came out of school who's brand new, that doesn't have the seasoning of an experienced doctor? That part really irritates me. Well, insurance irritates me anyway.
Podcast.
No, I want to talk about it right now. This is philosophy. What are you talking about?
Yeah. Be who you are, know why you're there, and do it well.
Yes, and I think we've demonstrated that the triune of chiropractic, they all influence each other, right? The science behind what you do influences the art of how you do it and the philosophy of why you're doing it.
And if you find yourself not having a clear definition of one or more of those three, spend your time expanding them. That will make you more balanced. A triangle is balanced most of the time. That's why they stand so strong. An equilateral triangle stands strong because of the equal forces in all directions. But when you start getting too skewed one way or the other, it's a weak structure.
You're going to tip over.
It's going to tip over.
All right. Well, we hope we did justice to the art, science, and philosophy of chiropractic. I feel like we did pretty good.
I think so.
It was fun.
We talked about a lot of stuff. So one way or another, we talked about it a lot.
Thank you for joining us for this episode of All Things Chiropractic. I'm Paul Andrews.
And Dr. Mark Davini. Thank you, Paul.
Thanks for listening to All Things Chiropractic. We'd love to hear from you. Visit allthingschiropractic.com with comments, episode ideas, or questions. Or connect with us on Facebook and Instagram at All Things Chiropractic Podcast. Be sure to join Dr. Mark Davini and Paul Andrews next time for another episode of All Things Chiropractic.